Welcome to Egg
and Bean Podcast.
I'm Sunny.
And I'm Nathan.
And welcome to our podcast where we talk about the growing pains in life.
Where we put a Band-Aid on it and transport.
That's our motto. So today we are talking about relationships.
Ooh.
Hot topic alert. So I think that when it comes to the topic of relationships, what's trending right now is red flags and icks. But I'm going to keep, with the red flags. I'm not going to say it because, I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of the word ick, but that's for another time. So what are some of your red flags?
Me?
Nate? Yeah.
I'm constantly in the bathroom. I take like 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
I have stinky feet.
I mean, before you could keep going, Nate has ran straight to the bathroom every time that he's been here. Straight to the bathroom.
I don't even think I say hi. I think it was like, Sunny, gotta use the bathroom.
Every time without missing a time.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so as you notice, when I take my boots off every time I get here, I have stinky feet.
Yeah, I handed him... What did I hand you?
Febreze.
Yes.
Febreze.
I was going to say perfume, and I knew that wasn't it. I don't know why. Perfume is what came to my mind. But yeah, I make you spray your feet down before you enter my Asian household.
But a big red flag is my inability to regulate emotions.
Yeah.
I am not very good at that. But what about you, Sunny? What are your red flags?
I pour milk before
No.
I pour cereal, guys. I have
That's
a confession
gross. Cancel
to
her.
make. It's something that I didn't realize was quote unquote wrong until I got older. Because growing up, my mom would prepare breakfast for me, right? And sometimes it would be a simple soy milk or a smoothie or an egg, right? But when it came to cereal, she would pour the milk already into the bowl.
So this is like a generational issue?
Yes. I blame my mother for my red flags.
Same.
It's all your
I'm just
fault.
kidding, Mama. I love you.
Big hearts. I love you too, Mom. It was just Mother's Day. We can't be slandering. But she would prepare the milk already so she didn't have to leave the milk out, So all I had to do was pour the cereal in. And my mom was really keen on not leaving stuff out of the fridge for very long. So she would prepare it early, like an hour early before we were to wake up. And so that's why she did that. She didn't want it to spoil.
I think the only appropriate time to put milk before cereal is when you finish the first bowl and there's milk in there left over, and then you just add the cereal. That's the only acceptable time.
I'm sorry, guys. I'll work on it. I admit my mistakes. I apologize. There will be no crocodile tears in this apology video, but I will formally apologize to all of you guys for pouring milk first before I pour my cereal in. And I will be working on that and reflecting in my own time.
Yeah, you better.
Do you remember that era of apology videos on YouTube?
Leave Brittany alone.
No.
Not that one? Am I showing my age?
No, I thought it was like the whole beauty influencer era where James Charles and whatnot.
That was not mine.
Okay. My bad. Anyways, moving on. Another thing that I think is a red flag or a stupid red flag is I may or may not sometimes already have gotten comfy in bed and I didn't take my contacts out yet. And they're daily, so I don't have to put them back in the contacts like solution
That's
case,
so bad.
right? So what I will do is, you know what? Okay, I can't be the only one who doesn't want to get out of the bed when I'm already comfy, okay? So I'm not trying to get out of bed and I have to take these out. So what I do is I will remove them and I may or may not like leave them on my nightstand or flick them somewhere. I literally go, whoop, and then it just goes, wee.
At least you take them out, though, because there's been times where people go into the ER and there's like 27 contact lenses in there.
Okay, I will admit, too, a few times I have also slept in my contacts. So
You're gross.
Listen, leave me alone.
So back to relationships.
So I do that. I get some of my more serious red flags are I also had an inability to process my emotions for a while, but I'm a lot better now. Definitely a lot better through therapy and self-reflection and all of that.
Nice. I need to work on that.
And I guess another one is that I am very stubborn. Yes. Nate's like, yes, keep going. I like what I'm hearing.
Improvement.
I think I'm very stubborn when it comes to things that I genuinely believe in. And sometimes it takes me a second to see it from someone else's perspective. But it's a lot better now. And if you just give me a second, I'll get there. Because I think my emotional state or just my emotions take over for a second and I want to stand by myself.
You're just very passionate about what you
believe in. Yeah, I'm very passionate about what I believe in because there's not many things I'm like that passionate about. So when I am passionate about it, it takes me a second. So, yeah.
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast so we can get different points of views.
Yeah. Do you think that it's hard to notice the red flags at first in, a relationship, especially in the early talking stages?
100%. There's something called like the honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
Where both of you are trying to impress each other and they're trying to do their best. They're not showing like their true colors. And I feel like it's very difficult to see how a person really is in the beginning,
Right. I agree. You're kind of blind because of the happy emotions and the mystical, magical feelings that you're, feeling. The butterflies. And I think a lot of times because of that, you will either miss them because you put them on a pedestal or because you just choose to see what you want to see because you want that relationship so bad. Yeah.
So how do you go around that? Like, how do you make sure you're not going towards that direction?
I think that in today's dating culture, there's a heavy emphasis on you as an individual trying to impress the person you're on a date with, for example. And my philosophy on first dates or first many dates is to take that pressure off of yourself. I think the whole point of dating is not to make people like you, but it's to figure out whether or not you like the person you're on a date with. Of course, you want to present yourself properly and be yourself and have fun. But I think at the end of the day, you should be putting that focus on, do I like this person or not? Ask the questions that are important to you. Figure out if this person has the traits that you like, has the values that match with yours. And I think that takes the pressure off. Think about it like an interview, right? When you're the one interviewing someone, there's a lot less pressure versus when you're the person who's being interviewed.
Yeah.
So I think if you view it like you're the interviewer and they are you're trying to figure out if you like them or not.
Show me why you're fit for this
Exactly.
position.
Well, obviously not in a egotistical way, but it's a protecting your peace, protecting your value type of way.
Yeah, it's like in the company, you want to hire the best people. You just don't want to hire anybody.
Exactly. Right? So if you're trying to find a partner for life, given that's what you're dating for. Some people just want to date for fun, and that's okay. If that's if that's what you're trying to do, then I would say this is less important. But if you're dating to find someone to spend the rest of your life with, I think it's really important to make sure that you're putting that emphasis on whether or not they have the traits or characteristics or values, morals that you have or, that match with yours.
Nice.
Yeah. So I would say that that's something that I really learned when I got older, and something that I've been implementing a lot more. And of course, there are those dates that you just go have fun, and then it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, those are fun too, though.
Yeah, just experience it, meet new people, see where like they come from.
Yeah. I think what I like best about a first date is just seeing their point of view and just being able to have a conversation and their point of view in life.
Yeah, it's the same with friendships too. You know, when you have an opportunity to make a new friend, there's that excitement. And or you just meet someone new. I mean, at work, we meet a lot of new people that we probably never see again.
Yeah.
And whether that's nurses, ER techs, other EMTs, patients, whatever, security guards, I always talk to them, police officers, I always talk to them. I get this sense of joy and a hit of dopamine because I have this really fun, lighthearted conversation. And, you know.
And we've met so many cool people.
Yeah.
Remember that sheriff pilot that we met? That was so cool.
Dreams. That's I don't want to be a sheriff pilot, but I want to be on a helicopter one day.
It's going to happen one day.
We should definitely do an episode on why we became an EMT too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. Side note. I think a lot of you have been asking, and I know a few people here and there know about it, but I think we should go a little more into depth. So stay tuned, peoples. And yeah, I think going back to our topic, I obviously sidetracked a little bit. Speaking of relationships, what are some relationship non-negotiables that you have?
Non-negotiables.
Yes.
So they have to have the baseline morals and principles that I have. I have to be able to vibe with them, you know?
Yeah.
They have to like animals. That is a big thing. If you don't like animals, that's another red flag.
Every animal name?
Every single animal.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm a red flag for you. I think I was also...
Every single animal. Chirp, chirp.
I'm scared of birds.
So why are you scared of birds?
I'm so scared of birds. That's a long story for another day. We can talk about our phobias in another episode, but I'm scared of birds, and if I'm required to like every single animal, then cross me off that list.
Yep.
I'm out. I'm not the one for you.
I think we covered that in episode 1.
Yeah, this is the reason why me and Nate are not together, because I'm scared of birds. Breaking news, everybody. We now know the reason why Nate and Sunny are not dating.
It's not the stinky feet.
How do you think your relationships, the way you view relationships, has changed from when you were younger till now?
As a kid, you don't really know what a relationship really is or what even love is, as a matter of fact. The only point of reference you have is your parents. And in my case, when I was a kid, my parents had a really good relationship. And for me, it was normal. And I thought every relationship was like that. I didn't realize that there was like talking stages.
You thought people just went straight
into
I
the
love
relationship.
You.
Like, let's get married, baby. I'm a Marine.
Let's get married. Put a ring on it.
But as you grow older, you see how important it is to have that talking stage. And like you said, to see if that person is a good fit.
Right. I think that's so interesting because I had the opposite experience. Of course, I agree with you that your parents are your first glimpse at what a relationship is. But it was so interesting to hear that you thought all relationships just started out the way that you saw your parents act.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting to me because my parents, like a lot of traditional Asian parents, don't show a lot of affection to each other. And as a result, I was very unfamiliar with it.
Aww.
And so my first boyfriend tried to hold my hand at school.
How dare he?
That was my exact reaction. It was such a small, normal thing to do. It was not inappropriate. He was just holding my hand. He was a very nice boy. Very nice. I was very young, right?
What grade was this?
I was like a freshman in high school.
Oh, I thought it was like elementary.
No, I was 14 and it was my first boyfriend and he was a very nice boy. And he tried to hold my hand and I had the same exact reaction. I was like, we were walking and his hand starts coming like this, right? And he closes and clasps my hand with his. And I was like, I went like that. It was like touching fire. I was like, what did you just do? Did you just touch my hand?
What did the poor kid say?
I don't remember really because I was just so
because
taken
he moved
aback.
or
I think he was just a little confused why I was reacting that way. But I think he didn't question it because he thought it was because we were at school. And that was why. But no, it wasn't because we were at school. If we were in a park, I would have had the same reaction. Wow. Yeah, I was so taken aback that someone would do something like that, even though that was so normal to do. He did nothing wrong. I just was so uncomfortable by it because I've never seen my parents do that. Ever. Like, not hold hands. I don't even really think they've hugged.
Really?
Yeah, so
I'm so sorry.
Well, it's not that they don't love each other, but it's a very different culture, right? And I was not having that one. It took me a long time. I think it wasn't until college that I really started, or maybe the end of high school, early college, I started really learning how to be more affectionate. But I will say it is still not one of my strong suits.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think for me is I'm a little too affectionate. Yeah, I show too much love too fast.
You can't give them 100 at the beginning. You know?
I know. That's what you keep telling me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's difficult.
Yeah. I think it also scares people off because it's a lot too fast, too early.
Yeah.
And as much as you can feel as if you have good intentions and you're just showing them how you feel about them, there's also this thing called social awareness and self-awareness and situational awareness.
Where do I get those?
So yeah, I know a lot of people don't mean, ill will with that, but it's not appropriate to do that so early.
And that's where we learn and grow.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, when I was younger, of course, many of us didn't see relationships as a forever thing. Or actually, did you?
For me, yeah.
Oh, you did?
I did. For me, since I was a kid, marriage was all about life together.
Right.
It was never about just like...
for the time being.
Yeah, for the time being.
Yeah.
Even dating, like it was to get married for life.
That's really interesting because I guess you're right. I guess it's not majority of people. I guess there's a split where some people have always viewed it that way, that it's a forever thing, and some of us didn't. And so when I was younger, I really believed, the relationships I were in were for the time being. And I think that now that I'm older, that's definitely changed for sure. I now view relationships in a very... some say a unromantic way. I view it like a business contract of sorts.
Like a job application?
Yeah. Well, no. It's a contract, right? And it's not, I guess, let me explain because it sounds kind of bad. But to me, these are the things that I say I'm going to do in this relationship. And I promise to keep them up. And to consistently work on A, B, and C. So in terms of a contract, I imagine it to be Section A, Title 4,
So you're just setting your boundaries at an extreme level.
Yeah, and I want them sent to place. I want them to be very clear so when it comes to disagreements, it makes disagreements easier to handle because there's not a lot of he said, she said, oh, well, you said blah, blah, blah. and that person doesn't remember, or it wasn't ever discussed. So I think general guidelines of, I promise to always communicate, and I will go even deeper into that, meaning what does communication mean to that person? Because communication can be interpreted in many different ways. Same as trust, same as effort, same as consistency. So I don't want to leave room for interpretation, really. Like, so I want it to be very clear.
You're setting boundaries and expectations.
Exactly. Yes. A contract of boundaries and expectations. And to me, saying yes to a relationship is both of us signing that and being held accountable to this contract. Of course, there are the romantic, lovey parts of relationships, but I think at this stage in my life, I'm past the dating for the time being. I don't have time. Given everything I'm doing, I don't have time for that. So if this is what I think is going to be for the rest of my life, these are my boundaries, these are my expectations. Say yes or no, that's up to you.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not personally hurt if people ultimately say those are things that I cannot uphold. I understand, right? Then we're just not a good match. I think on top of what we were talking about earlier, where we were talking about whether or not we should put people on a pedestal and where to put the pressure on when you're on a first date, I think that instead of viewing dating as winning a prize, it's more so you're a puzzle piece and you're trying to find the puzzle piece that fits you. Right? You're not winning a prize. I think a lot of times people view relationships as, ooh, look at my partner. Ooh, look how hot he is, or how great she is. Like, she's so hot. She's so, yeah. It's this like, oh, wow, I can't believe that I have this, blah,
I can
blah,
pull
blah.
that. Wow.
Yeah. It's they view it. I feel like people are using their partners sometimes as a point to brag almost. And so that's why they care so much and they get so hurt. But I think that if you view relationships as you're one puzzle piece, not one puzzle piece is better than another puzzle piece. You're both just a puzzle piece, but you have a different shape and you need to find one that matches yours. I think that's how I view it. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Let me know. I could be wrong.
Well, I gotta learn a thing or two from you, honestly. But do you feel like social media has changed like the culture around dating?
Oh, 100%. I think that with social media, we are now exposed to a lot of options.
Oh.
And that is not necessarily always the best, in my opinion, because us as human beings, we're geared towards wanting things we can't have or don't have. And the grass is always greener on the other side, which
it's not always true.
It's not always true.
It rarely is.
Yeah, no, it rarely is. And I think that people, everybody lacks a bit of self-control and restraint sometimes. And when you're given so many options on the internet, you got to have some strong, deep-seated values, morals, self-control, discipline. You got to have all of those things because temptations are going to be there. And I mean, back then you had a little small town and left 10 people.
But somehow people still had like 10 kids.
It was different back then. What about you? What do you think about social media and relationships?
I feel like everybody nowadays just wants like the instant gratification.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to really work for a relationship anymore. And it takes a lot of work and effort to build an actual relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just social media, instead of connecting people, it's like connecting people for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I mean, there's also just a lot of, I don't know, a lot of stuff on the internet. Just a lot of it. So I don't know. It's not it's a topic that's touchy for most people because I feel like there's a lot of insecurities that stem from social media. The whole, oh, you shouldn't like other girls' photos. There's this whole discourse on whether or not that's okay. And, you know, I think that's a little touchy of a subject. Before we get into social media a little further, we're going to take a quick bathroom break.
You can see it in my eyes, huh?
I do. You're staring at me very intently through that whole conversation. Please. You're like, yeah, social media is really, really bad. I got you. Well, we'll be right back, guys. And we're back. So, we were talking about social media. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think social media does? How does it affect our relationships?
Like you said, there's way too many options and people just have different people to choose from and you don't necessarily have to stay with one person. So I think it just ruins like whole relationships. Yeah,
I mean, if your girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whatever you call your significant other has 80-90% of everything that you want in a relationship, nobody's perfect. I think very few people are going to hit that 100%. I don't think it's possible. I think it's easy to see this 10% in someone else and really want that. But that's the thing, is you're dropping someone for 10% when you have the 90.
But then you also have people getting 10% here and then 10% there and 10% there. And just like getting their different needs from different people.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, a lot of people who are constantly in and out of small talking stages, situationships, whatever you want to call it.
Gross.
So you clearly don't like situationships. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think at this point in my life, I feel like I'm ready to look for something. I'm not necessarily looking for it, but if it comes my way, then I would accept it.
Yeah. I think a huge difference from back then and now is the way that relationships are viewed. You know, back then, marriage or relationships were for economic status reasons, right? But nowadays, it's about love. The emphasis is on love. And I think love is great and all, right? And that's really important. But feelings go up and down, you know? Your feelings towards your significant other are just like your feelings towards anyone, your family. Some days you love your mom very much. Some days I'm a little mad at you, right? That's the same for your significant other. And I think in today's day and age, when we hit that low end of the wave, where the feelings aren't super strong that day for whatever reason, people want to give up. And I think there's not a lot of emphasis on that a relationship requires a lot of work. It's that commitment on those low days.
Yeah.
I'm still going to do the things I said I was going to do. I'm still going to be there for you no matter what my feelings are. And that's what carries you through.
Yeah. And relationships aren't always 50-50.
Right.
You know? Like you said, it's ups and downs. So sometimes it might be 60-40, 70-30. So it's just working together to be able to complete that 100.
Exactly. I love that. I think this is a great analogy for relationships, but just anything you do, it's what makes things work. It's a lot like EMT Partners.
Yeah.
You know, I think that my goal in life is to find my ultimate EMT partner for life, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
Right? My ultimate EMT partner for life, do or die, right? And you know, we've talked about this before in terms of friendship, but a good EMT partner encompasses a lot of things that I find very important in a relationship. Using that analogy, what do you think is something that we see in a good EMT partner that translates to being a good relationship partner?
So working alongside with someone, especially for 12 to 16 hours, even more than that.
Yeah.
You need to have really good communication.
Yeah.
Like really good communication, especially what's like life or death. It's like you have to almost read your partner's mind.
Right.
But you don't always start that way. You build up that connection and that trust, and later on you'll be able to do that.
Right. And I think what you just pointed out is something really important, which is like we have this sense of comfortability. So over time, you and I, for example, we could look at each other's eyes and know what each other is saying. But remember, we would always talk about we still need to focus on communicating. So verbally saying those things. So I think it's very similar in relationships where you get comfortable. You think that the person knows that you care about them. And so you forget to do the things, say the things that you should say because you get too comfortable. And a lot of times with EMT, during work, we would come into some issues because we would get too comfortable. We didn't communicate properly. So I think that's a very good one. I think another example that works in both situations is having each other's back. It's kind of similar to the 70-30, making up for the other person when they're down and trusting them to have your back when you're at your 30%.
Yeah.
Right? And, to make the team, the crew, a well-oiled crew, you need to be making up for things. And, for example, me and you're really strong and you're able to do a lot of things that I cannot do, right? When it came to small spaces, though, that's all me. We're in a house with 2 inches of space next to the bed. Guess who's there? All me. Every day, right? So it's making up for the things that we're not great at. It's being a good fit. And I think that's why I really view having a life partner like having a good EMT partner.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah? Like what else? Tell the people what else we were really good at making up for each other. Weaknesses.
What?
Making up for each other's weaknesses. In what ways did we do that as EMT partners?
You for sure carried like the intellectual side.
He's the muscle on the brain.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about my memory, but you would always know what numbers we're going to, like the room numbers. I would never remember.
Information about the patient, the names, everything.
I'm so bad at names. I would always call it mama or papa.
Yeah. He goes, mama. But I like when you call our patients mama. It's really endearing. And they love it. They love it. And then there's me. I go, ma'am, sir.
Or get off.
I go, sir, you need to scooch up a little bit. The seat's right here. I also, one thing I really appreciated was a lot of times at work on our calls, people would underestimate me. I got a lot of comments where
way too much.
Pretty much every call.
Every shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every call. Basically.
Almost every call. Someone would be, say something along the lines of, are you sure you can do your job? Are you strong enough? Or if they tried to be nice about it, they'd be like, oh, you look strong. You're stronger than you look.
Like a backhanded compliment or joke. Or like, oh my God, you're driving today.
Oh yeah, you're my driver. And I'd be like, that's rude. But there was this one time where we got there and the patient's family turned and asked me how much I benched. And that's it's not necessarily rude, but there's a lot of underlying shade there, right? Would you ask, who in the world would go up to Nathan and ask, how much do you bench? If anything that they were asking, they'd be expecting like 500 pounds to be the answer.
300.
300. But in that moment when that happened, Nate had my back, and before I could even respond, he went, oh, she benches more than me. Like she's just watch. Like
she's she's the strong one here.
Yeah, you would always tell them that I was the strong one, and you always had my back. And ultimately, I would prove them wrong. We'd lift the patient.
Yeah, you'd be lifting some heavy people, Sonny.
Yeah, and you were always very supportive, but not in a condescending way.
I'd be like,
yeah, be like. He'd throw up the muscles and go, that's all you, baby. That's all you. And it made me feel really, really good. You and my first partner, Kool-Aid, did a very good job with that, and I really, really appreciate you guys doing that for me, because, you know, being new to the field, being my size, being constantly getting these comments, it was really nice. But I think that translates into what we're talking about in relationships, having someone's back, right? In all aspects. What is another example? Because I really like this analogy.
Another example? You're just throwing questions all over the place, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to pick your brain, Nate.
I know. It's very hard to pick at it because it's really high up in there.
Where's Waldo? I'm trying to find Waldo.
Just like an analogy, not just like an EMS.
Right.
It's just the ambulance.
Right.
It's so bumpy. Just like a relationship. There's always going to be pots. There's going to be potholes everywhere.
Yeah.
And your job is to get to the ER without dying, I guess.
Yeah. Get to the finish line without dying. And you trust that person who's driving to do that.
Oh, see?
Big brain.
See, always carrying the intellect.
I'm the brain. Let's go.
And I'm the good looks.
Nate's like, I got the face card here. I think another one that I really value is the communication skills, but keeping each other accountable. So not just the communication in terms of, you know, expressing how you feel, but it's, if the call didn't go well, we would talk to each other about it.
Yeah.
Right? I'd go, hey, you know, but with compassion, right? It's not throwing the blame. It's taking your part in it, acknowledging your part in it. For example, hey, you know, during that call, I should have been more aware of A, B, and C, right? And, you know, I would have appreciated if you had done this during this time to help me out during this call, like during this situation. It's also important in relationships to be able to say those things. I think a lot of times in relationships, you're afraid of hurting the other person's feelings, just like your EMT partner. You don't want to hurt their feelings. Yeah. So it's having the skills to be able to say what you need to say in a compassionate way.
And not getting all defensive
Exactly.
about it.
You know, have you ever worked with a EMT partner that you've never worked with before, and you don't know how to tell them that, you know, that you need something during this call or something went wrong because you're afraid that they'll be mad or whatever, angry about it?
I typically would just let them know.
Yeah.
But I feel like I got used to letting people know what they're doing wrong because I was a trainer.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do remember working with a particular someone that we didn't really work with. And they did an oopsie. They took out an IV.
They took out an IV.
Anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that story?
I do remember that story. And then he blamed it on me.
And the nurse didn't even believe him.
Yeah.
The nurse was like, Sonny? No, she wouldn't.
Well, okay. So what happened on this call was a lift assist. And for those of you guys who don't know, a lift assist is when we have a patient that is over 300 pounds. We have 2 crews that arrive, right? And the crews were Nate and I, Kool-Aid, and
some
someone
other
else.
guy. Yeah, some other guy.
And we had a nurse.
Best nurse ever.
Best nurse ever. Shout out him.
He was
Angelo,
great.
love you. Anyways, so during this call, we were putting on the leads. We were doing everything we were supposed to be doing. And this 4th EMT that we don't usually work with or really know.
Or
decided to just step in and do my job. And I let him. All you, bro. Go for it.
He was doubting you.
Yeah. So he decided to go do what I was supposed to do, and I let him do it. I stepped away, and all of a sudden, I don't see what happens, but all of a sudden, he quickly scrambles behind me, switches places with me. And I thought in that moment that he just wanted me to do his job that he had decided to just do. And I get there, and I look down, and at the same time, the patient goes, guys? And the IV's just half sticking out of his hand.
Catheters all bent out.
And we're all a little panicking a little bit. Not panicking, but we're like, oh.
Because this was a CCT call.
Yeah, it's a critical care call. And we were kind of scrambling a little bit. So we fixed the situation and everything. And later after the call, we were discussing it. And I realized in that moment that he had stepped behind me because he had accidentally pulled it out and pushed me basically towards it to take the blame for the IV, because I was standing right next to it when the patient found it sticking out of his hand.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is, you know, in a lot of relationships, if you're not able to be accountable, but also have that conversation about what went wrong and what could have gone better, it's very damaging. There's no growth in the relationship. There's no growth as an individual. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very important.
100%.
Yeah. I miss working together, Nate. This is making me sad because
I miss working.
We worked so well together. We'd have fun, you know.
Mm-hmm. It never felt like we were working.
Yeah.
Although we were always professional.
Yes. Always. I think a lot of people with our videos think that we don't take our jobs very seriously, but you know, when it was go time and when we were on a call, we were always very serious and professional, mm-hmm. you know. But we had fun doing it.
Yeah. And we were amazing EMTs.
We were.
And it's not just from our mouths.
Yeah.
It's from the nurses that we've worked mm-hmm. with, and I miss it so much.
I miss it a lot, making me sad. Do you feel like changing partners when we stopped being partners was tough on you?
It definitely was tough, especially because we started making TikToks together.
Yeah.
Once we stopped being partners, it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I didn't see you that much. I mean, now I get to see you all the time because we're doing this podcast, guys. That's really why I started this podcast, guys.
She's forcing me to be here.
I think that's another point that might be similar to relationships is when you change partners, it takes a little bit to get used to it, you know? And there are things that work well with one partner and that don't work well with another partner. Mm-hmm. And
that's another analogy right there. Look at that.
Did you feel jealous that I had a new partner?
Yeah, I was like, who the heck is this guy?
It's funny because your new partner and mm-hmm. my new partner, we're all friends. And it was just funny. Sometimes you would tell me that you bought your new partner Starbucks and I would get so jealous. I'd be like, excuse me, where was my Starbucks when we were partners?
Yeah, I would bring you stuff all the time.
I know. I was just making fun at it. Do you think, speaking of jealousy though, do you think that jealousy is important or damaging in a relationship?
I think a little bit of jealousy is normal.
Right. Healthy almost, right?
It's healthy because it shows that you care for that person.
Right.
Like imagine being with someone and I'm not saying you're going to do this, but let's say you try to make them jealous.
Yeah.
You do your best to make them jealous and they don't get jealous. You get no reaction. You're going to think that they don't care about you.
Yeah. You almost want them. You're hurt.
Yeah. You're like, come on, please.
You're like,
be hurt.
Be hurt. I want to see you cry.
Cry for me, please. But I feel like the point where jealousy turns into toxicity is when you become controlling because of it. Mm-hmm. Like you let your emotions get to you, you overthink, and you just act out in ways that you normally wouldn't.
Right.
What about you?
I think like you that a healthy amount of jealousy is great for the relationship, but I think when the jealousy becomes when it starts affecting the relationship, that's when it becomes a problem. So you can be a little jealous, right? But when you start taking it out on your partner and you start, trying to pick fights, you trying to cause problems, not on purpose because that's just genuinely how you feel, but I think it's important to check yourself, to be self-aware and understand that a lot of times your jealousy stems from insecurity, right? And it's your responsibility to take care of that on your own. Of course, your partner can be there and support you through it all, but it is not their responsibility to take care of your insecurities. They have their own insecurities. They're working on it themselves. They can ask you for a little support here and there, but it's ultimately not their job.
Wow.
Right?
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is that? That's like codependency, right?
Right. And I think it's, again, if we're going to use the EMT partner analogy, because I'm really good at analogies. If you aren't catching that yet, I'm really good at them. I think that if your personal problems at home are being brought to work and you're putting it on your EMT partner and letting it affect your job, then that's a problem, right? We're not saying that your feelings aren't valid, but it's something that needs to be handled on your own time. Of course, especially if your EMT partner is your friend, you can on shift be like, hey, you know, I've been really struggling with this recently. You know, I feel this way about myself, or something's happening at home. What is your advice on how I can get better or work on that, right? But imagine if you went to work and I went to work and I was just taking everything out on you, snapping at you, just being rude to you because for no reason. Well, for my own personal reasons that had nothing to do with you. But you didn't tell me. Yeah, exactly. So it's just the same in relationships. If I'm feeling insecure, like, you know, I feel very not great about how I look today or how I'm doing in school. I don't feel like I'm doing well. And instead of approaching it that way, approaching your insecurities as a discussion, and you're now projecting it like, oh, well, why don't you just go find a girl who's like prettier than me, you know? Or you think is prettier, or like looks better, or is smarter than me. You know, you see the difference?
Yes.
It's okay to have insecurities, but it's the way you're approaching it with your partner that makes or breaks it.
Okay.
You see? So I think that is where I would put, like, that's how I view jealousy, you know? It's okay to have that. It's good to have a little bit. It's healthy. But it's your responsibility. Yeah.
I like that.
You do?
I do like
that. I see in your eyes. You're like, wow, I learned something today.
Now you got me thinking my whole life.
Somebody put a thought bubble over Nate's brain and just his whole life is flashing before his
like a
eyes.
light bulb.
Bing, 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 bing. Yeah. You need a second, don't you? I blew your mind. I'm sorry.
You blew my mind a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my intelligence. I'm kidding.
You better be. You make me feel a little bit stupid sometimes.
It's okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well,
you're the Hulk.
Remember that one time? It was like a critical patient and the bed was locked.
Yeah.
And instead of just unlocking the bed, I grabbed it with one hand and threw it across the room.
Those beds are really heavy, guys. Like, really heavy. He just picked that up.
I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're already strong. But on top of that, during critical calls, I do a lot more than I think I can. So if you're already strong and your adrenaline is pumping.
Oh, you're right.
You're the Hulk. Yeah.
What's weird with adrenaline, what I've noticed is it doesn't freak me out. It makes me focus more.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think one, we're trained to. And I think another reason is maybe just your natural innate nature to do that.
I'm a fighter, not a flighter.
Exactly. I think it's also something that's really important in EMS is being able to guide your adrenaline, your anxiety, your fear, all of these emotions towards your task and utilizing it to do what you need to do in a very high stakes situation. You know, I think we're a different breed for sure.
So it's not necessarily that I lack or I can't regulate my emotions. It's just I don't do it in the right moment.
Yeah, probably. You're probably not feeling the pressure to do it like you do at work. Because at work, it's you got to perform.
I do notice that I tend to perform more under pressure or better under pressure.
Well, I mean, it seems like you're able to regulate your emotions. You're just not there yet to do it under no pressure. So you're capable of it. I think the situation, the environment that you need to regulate your emotions needs to be really high stakes. So I think if you can work on that and translate that into low stakes situations, you can do it.
Yeah, being in a high stakes situation sounds so tiring.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that all the time.
Well, what have you been doing already to regulate your emotions now that we're ending the end of our podcast?
The end of our podcast.
Yeah.
So something that I'm doing to help with my mental health. I've always struggled with being a people pleaser.
Right.
For the life of me, I can't say no. I always end up saying yes, even though I don't want to. And I feel like that adds extra stuff to my plate and extra anxiety.
Right.
And when I can't ultimately do what I promised, it just doesn't work out for me.
Yeah. You feel bad about it.
I do feel bad about it.
Yeah.
So what I've been consciously doing is saying no to things that I cannot do. And I know for a fact I can't do it. And it seems to be helping out, especially when I'm at work. They ask me, hey, can you do this? I'm like, no, I really can't. I am working on this right now.
Right.
So it's been helping me out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how's your mental health been this past week?
It's a 7.
A 7?
7 out of 10.
Okay, we went down 1 point.
I don't think we necessarily went down. It's just last week there was so much that it was an 8. This week, a 7, I think it's solid number. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's baseline.
A baseline. That's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about you, Sunny? What are you doing to help better your mental health?
So last week I really worked on gratitude. So I would say this week I have maintained the 8. Right? Thank you. But since you have already mentioned in previous episodes about walking and getting that sunlight, since summer is here.
And your name is Sunny.
Yes. I've decided to take a page out of your book and really go on more walks, get more sunlight. Because as you have mentioned, sunlight, produces serotonin and it increases your energy, supports your immune system.
It gives some life to your skin, Sunny.
Exactly. I have been getting a little more tan recently, if you guys haven't noticed.
Sunny, you're not a nature girl.
I've been working on that. I've been getting better.
You've been going on like walks? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I went camping for the first time recently.
Camping.
Yeah. So, we're working towards that. And yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to this week is taking a page out of your book. And hopefully we'll, maintain the 8. Maybe go up a little bit. Taking 1 out of the
10 pages of the book.
Yeah. How many pages in your book?
10.
10. Yeah. How many pages should you have? Or do you want to have?
I don't know. I lost the front cover and the back cover. It's just the 10 pages.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing how that went for you next week. And yeah, see you guys next week. That's the end of our 3rd episode.
3rd episode. Yeah. Wow. Things are picking up.
Thank you for listening to Egg
and Bean Podcast.
Bye. Love you guys.
I love you too.